So this nice woman stopped by one of the very first book signings that I ever did and purchased a copy of The Spiritual Awakening of an Analytical Mind. And we had a nice conversation. I'm always interested into where people are on their journeys. And I'm humbled by the fact that they would purchase my book, quite honestly. Then fast forward a month or two, and I was doing another signing and book sale at a metaphysical fair, and that same woman popped by the table and came up to me and said, "Tina, I've read your book. Now what?" And that has really stuck with me during the time since then. The now what? How do we begin this spiritual journey? So before we get into the now what, let me remind you that I am Tina Moody, and I am the author of The Spiritual Awakening of Analytical Mind, as well as co-host to the podcast Intuition Talks. And, truly, I am still on my now what. I'm just further along, I guess, the journey than I was when I began. And my now what has taken me from, corporate America to writing this book for people like me who are just beginning this journey or just venturing further down the path. And along with, meeting through this book, a person out in California who I then have, begun this podcast called Intuition Talks, and is now bringing me to YouTube. And as you can see by some prior videos, I'm trying to figure out what my purpose is with this. And I think I'm settling into it now after a couple misses. But it's a journey that I never would have expected. So I am sitting at this place and wondering, now what? And your now what is going to evolve just as mine did, and is going to be unique to you just as mine is unique to me. I'm guessing that if you're having one of those now what moments, that something has triggered your curiosity in you. And sometimes that curiosity can simply be believing that there is a different version of ourselves out there, and we all deserve that opportunity to seek out what that is. So triggers can take many sizes, shapes, and forms. It can be around a new job or the loss of an old job. It can be around moving to a new city or town. It could be the end of an old relationship, or it can be kind of grieving that splitting of a family unit through a divorce. It can be grief of losing somebody close to you, or a health situation that changes. So and that's not all of them, but there can be so many triggers that make us take pause, I guess, to say, you know what, I'm ready for something different in my life. If you're like me, this path of self-discovery can also be uncomfortable and awkward. I can best describe it that way. It may feel outside of who we are to take some of these steps. The whole woo-woo thing just doesn't seem like us. Like, I do not like using woo. It's just not in my DNA, I guess. But we are kind of curious, right? We're curious and we're ready to believe in something different, whatever that may be. However, being us, if you are like me, we assume that there's some sort of a roadmap or a linear to-do list in order to get us to the other side. And guess what? There's not. And why? Because we are all unique little snowflakes, and we each have our own unique little path that we're going to follow. Not only that, but some of us are hares and some of us are the tortoises. And if you are like me, then to get from point A to point B, we meander around the edges a little bit, and it takes us twice as long or 3 times as long to get from point A to point B. And that's okay. What I have discovered is, and kind of come to terms with, is that those excursions are not a waste of time. There are no fails. That oftentimes the things that we learn on those excursions, we're just putting what we've learned from them into our pockets, and we're not quite certain when they'll be used, but they're now there as a tool in our toolbox, so to speak. And as we evolve on our journey, will be like, oh, wait a minute, I've already done that. I know that part. And they come back around. But it's really difficult sometimes to just kind of go with the flow of that and see where it takes us. And then lastly, stagnation. Stagnation's not good for any of us. We all need to be growing. And that is probably one of the most fun things that I have had on the path is, discovering new things, finding inspiration, finding creativity, and again, experiencing those new things, because it allows our life force energy to flow and allows us to get into this great space of growth and evolution, and hopefully that will forever be the rest of our time here, kind of thing. And then again, the now what? So we begin to resign ourselves into trust. And when we begin to trust that everything in the end is going to work out in some way, shape, or form. It's not always easy, but it does work its way through. We stop trying to control everything the way we used to. And things do seem to become a little easier. When we get an inkling that we need to read a book or begin an art project or go somewhere or meet somebody new or somebody old, or try a new class, or I don't know, venture into a metaphysical shop and buy some crystals, or to jump in the ocean or climb a mountain, or buy a what do you call it, a singing bowl, or whatever it may be. There's so many different things. We begin to listen to those inklings and we begin to trust, and we take that step. And it all becomes tools and in our little toolbox that will come back around at some point. We may not know the why quite yet, but we trust that we will see it in time. We trust that our path is unique to us, like I've said, and that although we can do things with our friends or family or community that are on this path with us, and our paths may be the same for a moment in time or for that specific experience, our paths are unique to us, and we need to divert and go explore more for what is calling to us. So my goal through my personal journey has been to help people like me to step onto this path, because it was such an awkward, and still is, quite honestly, path for me. Being more analytical, more linear, more uncomfortable with the woo-woo, we'll say. And so whatever you want to call it, I tend to lean towards transformation or self-discovery. Some people, it's self-awakening or spiritual awakening, like I called my book. So call it whatever you want to call it, even if it's just finding the best version of yourself, right? So now what? How do you begin your journey or step further down that path? And I think the quick answer is you just begin, because there's so many different aspects of it, right? And part of it is just discovering that best version of yourself. So maybe this video popped up for a particular reason for you. So you listen and you watch this video for that reason. Going forward, I am going to settle into this kind of nature of the videos and share what I have learned. Never will I say that I'm any sort of guru. I am just bringing in as much information as I can and having experiences. And if that can make it easier for the people that listen, then I will share what I have learned. So in the meantime, what I thought would be fun, and to keep with my goal of getting the information out into the hands of those people like me, and is why I wrote the book in the first place, is that I would like to give away a copy of my book, and I would like to sign it. So actually, I'm going to give away 2 copies of my book. So the first thing I would humbly ask is that if you wouldn't mind, if you think you would like to come along for this ride, if you could subscribe to the channel, I would be very appreciative of that. And then the second thing is, if you subscribe to my Monday newsletter on my website, I'll sign you up for that, and I'll put your name in the drawing for a signed copy of my book. And the second one is, because it's always nice to do something nice for somebody else, if you know somebody that could benefit from the book, then you can go into my contact information on my website, which is tinalmoody.com, and just fill in your information, your email, to send me a quick note, and just in the comments, just put the person's name. I don't need their email address or anything, and maybe a quick why you would like to gift a book to them. And if their name is drawn, then I will reach directly out to you. So we're not giving away people's address without their consent. And yeah, so I will plan on drawing the 2 names for the signed copy of the book on the equinox, or for some people it may be the day before the equinox, so I'm going to draw on September 22nd, and we'll reach out to you there that day or the next day. But thank you very much for watching today. I hope you will come back and join me for future videos. I think it's going to be fun. We're going to discuss books. We're going to talk about different things on this journey that we encounter, and it could be healing stuff, or it could be experiences, or it could be whatever it may be. And I think it will be a fun run for sure. So in the meantime, may you believe in all that you can become. Take care.